So 420, there are a lot of connotations of this date. I don't think I have to mention the obvious, but we're talking about a different event that took place on 420, which is the Deepwater Horizon tragedy. This event took place in April 20th, 2010. And this year we celebrated the 10th anniversary of this event. So the Deepwater Horizon tragedy was one that occurred on the Gulf of Mexico when an oiling rig that was secured and anchored on the ocean floor by very popular and very lucrative company British Petroleum blew up. Even 10 years later, we are still working to reduce the oil particles that are contaminating the Pacific Ocean. You can't exactly take a strainer and just strain oil out of the ocean, contrary to popular belief. We are seeing the food chain of the Pacific Ocean so deeply impacted that even zooplankton and planktonic creatures are impacted, and which causes a domino effect, which causes the entire food chain to suffer. Coral reefs, which are already threatened, have been damaged by the oil that sank to the bottom of the ocean. And this is an example of the devastation that these large companies can cause through their irreparable damage and destruction to nature. This is a common trend of how some of the worst environmental disasters occur. You need only look up natural disaster caused by large corporations. You will see multiple. On different scales too, and through different moduses of energy being developed, whether it be oil, whether it be nuclear, you name it. Studies have also shown that the perceived economic benefits from large corporations are outweighed by the damages that they cause to the environment. Not only is the environment impacted, so is public health and biodiversity. Coal production has repeatedly been shown to cause immense respiratory issues in the public, and the oil spills impact fishing consumption, economies, and therefore the food chain in a lot of countries that rely on marine creatures as food. These are only a couple examples of things that happen in the world. So why do I care and how do I come into this? When I was in high school, through advanced placement environmental studies, I had the opportunity to work with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the NOAA. I was able to collect some coastal information and essentially assess the health of the West Coast in Carmel, California. Carmel by the sea. It's beautiful, by the way. This was done by measuring sand at certain points in the sea, on the beach, measuring the land that was untouched by water, noting any erosion that occurred due to a connection of the lagoon and the ocean. And since then, I've been following this because I am very passionate about environmental studies and also marine biology. And as a Californian, live right next to the ocean, as a person from West Bengal, I care about the ocean. We are literally sinking into the ocean. So this is a very near and dear topic to my heart that I think is highly relevant. Not just related to the ocean, but particularly environmental damage. More often than not, we see that marginalized groups in the US have to deal with the worst environmental impacts. A very common instance of this is through chemical pollution of waterways, such as rivers, etc., which has a domino effect that impacts everybody and everything in an ecosystem. We see this occurring in Flint, Michigan. Again, you need only look in different directions and do some research to see it. Big corporations get away with this damage and damaging the environment in a couple key ways. Lack of testing their structures, which was the main impact that blew up the Deepwater Horizon rig, ruining the integrity of the soil or the ground that they are working in. Fracking is a huge example of that. Polluting waterways, again, like I said, happening in Michigan, happening in other places in the world. If anyone's seen Aaron Brockovich, you know what I'm talking about, when PG&E had a bunch of teratogens that were in the water and causing children to become sick, develop leukemia, cancer, awful things. Now, how do we fix this? It's actually very simple. We should fix this by holding companies accountable and holding them to their regulations by having federal agencies keep an eye on these corporations, charging fees and placing taxes on environmentally damaging behaviors. You got to hit them where it hurts most, and it is the pocket. It always has been, it always will be, especially in a capitalistic country like ours. Hit them where it hurts. Decrease funding for projects or production if the company has been seen to be engaging in environmentally damaging behaviors. Activist groups boycotting products of large companies and investing in more renewable resources. I write for the American Energy Society, and a lot of the things that I've been hearing, there's this conference that's taking place that I'm writing for. It's called SICE 2021. You guys should check it out if you're interested in renewable energy. Crazy things are happening in the world. It is incredible. We are seeing that electricity is proving to be cheaper than batteries, which is insane. It just frugally makes more sense, not only economically, but also for the environment. We need to subsidize renewable energy sources, and we need to provide incentives for companies to cut down on their carbon emissions. How is this beneficial to our society as a whole? Teaching children that we should value our environment over economic plans, preserving nature so the younger generation can see it. Renewable energy is becoming one of the most efficient and cheap sources of energy in the world. Fossil fuels are not renewable and they're depleting. If we take a specific example for a policy, in the Deepwater Horizon tragedy, the valves and the cement integrity of the rig was not tested. BP simply overlooked it, thought everything was going to be fine. We all know what happened. It blew up. People were killed. The environment was destroyed. We have an obligation to better public and environmental health around us when we see that there are problems threatening it. This should be extended to large corporations that are not only endangering human lives, but also the ecosystem. Thank you.